Psychology is a very interesting subject to me. It's always been a very interesting subject to me. It's originally what I went to college for. It originally was what I wanted to study and what I wanted my career and profession to be forever. And if it wasn't for how hard a monetary path is in the field of psychology, I'd probably still be going to school for it now. I've since made a decision not to pursue that path because I couldn't see a way where I could make very good money doing it based on what I was seeing in college and the degree path and the career path without going to school for 6 to 8 years. And honestly, I couldn't, I don't personally think I could have survived in the academic sphere that long. And there's a lot of reasons for why I don't think I could have survived the academic sphere that long. It's not because college is that hard, because it's not. Especially when I went away to college, I had to learn real quick how to time manage and budget my time and get homework done. And I also learned that the sooner I get homework done, the more time I had to myself later. So that was never really the difficulty. The difficulty is while you're away at college, you hear this kind of stuff on other podcasts and from politicians and stuff all the time and other influencers, but they say things like, when you go to college, you're stuck in a bubble, right? And when I was away at college, I just couldn't shake the feeling that my life was like paused. That nothing I did on a daily basis was substantial. Nothing really mattered or had weight or gravity to it. And especially seeing as to how I was spending money and not making it when I was away at college, that then made me feel like I was regressing as a person. Because I'm gonna be brutally honest. I learned very few things from going off to college or spending time in the classroom, in a college classroom or a lecture hall. Because I mean, I just got to be as candid about it as possible. Professors, in my experience, are pretty awful at teaching. The vast majority of the time, I'd have to take the notes from class, which didn't make a lot of sense to me, take it to Google, find somebody else's perspective on Google somewhere, and teach myself the damn lesson by the time I was done. The only class I didn't have to do that in was psychology, and that's because I didn't learn anything from my psychology classes. I've learned the vast majority of my psychological knowledge, which isn't all that vast, mind you, but I learned it from watching YouTube and reading articles on the internet and just making sure that the articles on the internet weren't like absolute bullshit. And I mean, and that was about it. And then I'd hardly go to my psych class. I'd go into the class, pass the tests because it was stuff I already knew from learning on my own because it was a passion of mine. And basically my semesters that I had psych classes weren't I had less of a class load because I had less to worry about because I could just show up to the test, take them, pass, and leave. But now that I'm done with that rant, the whole point of me getting into my psychology background and why it interests me is because on this meditation series I'm doing, I think about psychological concepts very often. And one that piqued my interest recently was the psychological phenomena of dreams. And damn it, fucking phone went off. There we go. Um, Dreams are very interesting to me, and that's because psychology and the realm of psychology cannot agree on what they are. The most accepted theory on what dreams are in the realm of psychology right now, not that there isn't any disagreement because there absolutely is that it's meant to consolidate memories. The theory roughly goes that when you go to sleep and when you enter a certain stage of sleep, I think stage 4 deep sleep is when. Actually, no. Stage 4 of deep sleep is actually the least amount of brain activity. The most amount of brain activity is during rapid eye movement, REM sleep. Had to remind myself there for a second. During REM sleep is when you dream, and the leading theory in the field of psychology right now is that when you have rapid eye movement, REM sleep, you're just consolidating memories. Whether that just be important memories or not important memories or just semantic facts or episodic memories, which are like the really deep, important memories you have, or God knows what else. Maybe it was just the last 24 hours. Nobody really knows, and lots of people disagree and have theories about it. I'm not going to say that memory consolidation isn't a part of it at all. The only reason I would disagree that that's like the sole purpose of dreaming is because I can formulate new memories, including episodic memories, while awake. I don't have to be asleep to do that. I'm forming an episodic memory right now. Almost every time I have one of these deep, long form conversations, even if it's with myself like it is in my meditation series, that turns into an episodic memory. And episodic memory is something you don't forget. And the reason I don't forget about it is because, there's lots of emotions associated with this. There's certain levels of anxiety, there's certain levels of self-consciousness, there's certain levels of excitement, there's certain levels of excited anxiousness, there's certain levels of annoyance because my damn fucking editing software doesn't cooperate with me, or because my computer likes to shut the fuck down and not turn back on lately, because I spent $2,000 building that thing for no reason, I guess. That all of those feelings and resentments and everything turn something into episodic memory. Basically, when you really care about something or if it has a big impact on you. So not everything throughout the day turns into episodic memory. It turns into long-term episodic memory. Like, just because there's a bunch of emotions with it doesn't automatically make that happen. It has to have a significant impact on you. And generally, my podcast episodes do. There are a few instances on the podcast that don't become episodic memory for me because I just love doing it. I mean, it's not like a huge success or anything, but I've seen a little bit of growth, and I hope to continue seeing growth. That would be awesome. But gotta drag everything back. That's the main leading theory, is that it's to consolidate memories. Another theory is that it's to process emotions. And I mean, personally, I think that makes a lot of sense, but I don't think that would be the primary function of dreams. Because, dreams are really interesting. What I've learned about dreams, I'm going to get into the psychological nature of it a little bit more, even. In the back of your brain, one of your lobes, called the occipital lobe, is the lobe that processes sight, or seeing things, or images. So every time your eyes see something, and it's processed, and you think about what it is, or its shape, or whether or not it's two-dimensional or three-dimensional, normally you're doing all of these things all at once, your occipital lobe is firing and going freaking nuts. What's very fascinating about dreams is your occipital lobe is firing almost just as much as when you're awake while you're dreaming. Specifically during rapid eye movement when you're probably seeing things. Which means everything you see in your dream, even if the dream's not real, you're actually seeing them as if they are real. It's not just like your brain processes the information like it's 100% real. And I mean, that's how you get to things like nightmares or any other kinds of dreams for that matter. Things that have real, vivid, crazy emotional responses. They do that to you because you're viewing it like it's real, like it's 100% real. And that means they can trigger some severe emotional responses, and that's the only reason I don't think processing emotions would be the sole or primary reasoning behind dreams, because you formulate new emotions while you dream. So that would, if the whole point of the dream is to consolidate, remember, and process emotions you had throughout the last 24-hour time period, then why the hell is it generating new emotions to be processed? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to say it doesn't process emotions at all, but same argument as memory consolidation. I can form new emotions and process that emotions all the time. I don't have to go to sleep to do that, let alone dream. And then the only time you remember your dreams, the leading theory for that, is if you have a pretty strict circadian rhythm or sleep schedule, where you go to sleep at roughly the same time and wake up at roughly the same time. As long as you're doing that, you're more likely to remember your dreams. Now, some people just don't ever fucking remember their dreams ever. And I don't know if that's better or worse in terms of our human experience, but I like dreaming. mostly. I've got some pretty out there, wacky dreams, and they keep me in check a lot of the time. But the more Freudian aspect. When I say Freudian, I'm referencing Sigmund Freud. He's the grandfather of psychology, even though he's pretty frowned upon because he had some really out there weird shit, mainly involving human sexuality, which I don't really want to talk about in my dream episode. But he felt that dreams, his term was wish fulfillment. What the psychological literature currently says is express our deepest desires, is what some people theorize dreaming is for. And obviously, the biggest hole in that right off the bat is, why the fuck do we have nightmares? If it's for dream desire, why do we have dreams about our loved ones dying, or terrible things happening, or getting chased by monsters, or thrown out of planes, or falling off of cliffs, all this stuff? Like, why does any of that psychological phenomena exist if the whole purpose of dreams is to express our deepest desires? Now, it is possible for your dreams to express your deepest desires and fantasize things. I mean, me personally, I've never had dreams that were just all good and amazing all the way through. Almost always my dreams, I believe, have some weird subconscious symbolic meaning to them, kind of like a book or a story. But I know plenty of people who do get to express their greatest fantasies in their dreams, and wish they didn't wake up sometimes because it was so amazing and so fantastical and crazy. But for me personally, I know for a fact it's not to express my deepest desires, because that's rarely ever what my dreams are. And then on top of that, another thing that disproves that as being the primary function is how often it's not our desires, but quite the opposite. Another leading theory is to gain practice confronting potential dangers. So, like, kind of like running a simulation, I guess, is what it could be said. Similar to how some people in professions these days train with a VR headset and go into virtual reality simulations to see how they handle pressure and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I think there's a few instances of this. I had to do it at Walmart at one point, which was honestly a waste of corporate money, but I had to do it there. I think police officers have to do it with certain kinds of training now. The military does sometimes. I'm sure there's loads of situations where they're incorporating VR in VR training to gain practice confronting potential dangers, which is the leading theory about it. To gain practice in whatever situations you're going to confront. And I guess that's the whole premise of this theory, is your brain simulates situations in which you may confront danger at some point. Hopefully you handle it better because it simulated you through it. I wouldn't say that completely, or at least not in my experience, because one, not every dream I have is me in potential danger, and two, it's rarely ever a kind of danger I could confront or change. The vast majority of my dreams are almost always social repercussions to saying something wrong or doing something wrong in a social hierarchy or hurting somebody's feelings or something, and the repercussions of that drawn out over time. That's generally what my dreams are these days. I'm not, and just like all the other theories, I'm not going to say that it's not to gain practice confronting potential dangers at all. It very well could be, but I don't think that's the primary function of dreaming. I wouldn't say that either. But yeah, I mean, those are the leading in primary theories in the field of psychology. I'm sure there's some more out there. I'm not up to date on the literature because, like I said, I don't study psychology anymore, and I barely got to the point in college where I was reading the actual current literature. Actually, side note, that was one of my biggest problems with psychology, was it was outdated as shit. I was paying almost $15,000 a year at this big ass college and shit to be taught outdated information that wasn't even true. For example, I got into a huge argument with Badger like a year ago, I think, because I thought I did what every college kid does when he goes off to college. He thinks he's like the fucking master of his of the major, his specific major. He thinks they, not he, it can be guys or girls, but they think they're like smarter than everybody else in the specific subject because they study it. And why wouldn't you? Because you're trying to specialize in that subject. So it makes sense to be a little arrogant about it. But Badger read an article suggesting that your brain could create new brain cells to change habitual behaviors and change some natural behaviors that we find in human beings. And he read an online article about it, and I remember taking a test on the fact that I remember test questions and having to study and having it drilled in my head by a fairly prestigious psychologist, mind you, in the state of Illinois. Um, I remember being told specifically, you run out of neuroplasticity, which is how flexible your brain is, shortly after birth. And you stop being able to produce new neurons or new brain cells, and what you got is what you got. And that's what we thought in the realm of psychology for a very long time. And while I was being taught that, paying money to be taught that, turns out what Badger was reading was the current literature. We had recently discovered that you can produce new neurons, especially if they're killed. And it can create a type of temporary neuroplasticity or brain flexibility in regeneration. And I didn't find out about that until like a month after the fight, and I called him up. I remember it vividly. It's in my episodic memory. I called him up and had to swallow my pride and be like, yeah, dude, I'm an asshole, and I absolutely got the facts wrong, and just want to let you know I got the facts wrong because I'm paying a shit ton of money to apparently be taught the wrong information. And that was quite irritating. And I understand why I was getting taught the wrong information, too, because it's a curriculum. Like, that shit has to be updated before you can learn anything new. The psychology professors and doctors and so on can't just, like, go and read something on the internet and then start teaching it as fact in the middle of their class. Like, all their curriculums have to be, like, peer-reviewed and approved, and it has to be approved by, like, a shit ton of bureaucracies and shit founded in the college, and God knows what else. And well, that's the reason why I was being fed false technology. But there's a dogma in psychology, or not technology, false information. But there's a dogma in all of academia, not just psychology, that suggests these are the facts. We have it figured out. We know this 100%, and they're not subject to change. Just for them to be changed, like a month after I stopped going to school. So that's irritating, and it's part of what made me stop pursuing it, because it's just, I wasn't going to pay so much goddamn money to be taught the wrong fucking information. But back to the main subject, back to dreaming. When I was a kid, I think specifically around the time I started taking ADHD medicine in the 3rd grade, and as a disclaimer, I don't take ADHD medicine anymore. I I'm to a functional extent with my ADHD now. So it's not that I don't have it, it's that it's... I keep going on psychological tangents. So ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, something like that. The D at the end, disorder, things, according to the DSM-5, which is like the Bible for psychological disorders, things are only a disorder if they affect you negatively in your daily life and prevent you from being like a normal, productive member of society. So, like, when people say they have obsessive-compulsive disorder, and that's because they like to keep their room straight, or maybe like to fidget with the dials in their car radio too much, they like the volume number on a certain number or something like that, that's not a disorder. They're a little obsessive-compulsive. They have obsessive-compulsive tendencies. It's not a disorder unless it disorders your life. That's how it works, basically, or disorders the lives of those around you. And so my ADHD went from ADHD to ADH tendencies. Therefore, I stopped taking the meds because I didn't need to. Now the extent of my ADHD is I tap my foot a little too often, maybe, and I don't always keep eye contact in conversation because I'll stare off and start thinking about other shit. But, like, I'm still in college right now, getting pretty okay grades. I can focus on things, especially when they interest me. I mean, all you have to do is watch me play video games or record a podcast for 5 minutes to realize I can focus on things if I want to, and I don't need meds. So, back to what I was saying, around the 3rd grade when I started taking ADHD meds, however, I started having very vivid, very crazy nightmares. And, I mean, that proceeded until I was like 12 years old or older. I just had night terrors all the time. It was awful, even long after I stopped taking the ADHD medication. And that's creepy as hell. I just gotta say, like, not only was it creepy for, like, parents or anybody else for that matter, it's really creepy for the person it's happening to, because you stop taking whatever was causing your problems, but the side effects stay. That means something's pretty fucked up and not okay. Thankfully, within the last 4 to 5 years, I've stopped having crazy nightmares all the time, and now it's just these really deep, vivid, symbolic dreams all the time. Dreams that, like, you can sit and analyze and, like, write in a journal for hours, because it's like I watched a 5-hour movie sometimes, and it's crazy. And I actually enjoy it a little bit, because it's helped me make some life decisions, because it's almost like a form of meditation for me. And I'm not saying that's the primary function of dreams either. I think it's the primary function of my dreams. So, like, I'm not gonna be, 1, I'm not a psychologist. 2, I'm definitely not a dream-based psychologist. And it's just like, I've got no business in suggesting a theory to blanket all people in their dreams and shit. Like, that's not my business right now. But what I can talk about is, for me, my dreams are normally warnings. Warnings or meditations on things. Not meditations like me talking about a specific subject like I am now. Meditations on, like, you need to think deeply about this because you fucked something up kind of meditations. But I think that sprung out of my nightmare issues, because it was around the time I was taking my ADHD medication and had some brain chemistry issues that I developed anxiety problems, which I've now gotten a grip on too, thankfully. It's amazing what finishing puberty and maturing does for people. But because of those anxious feelings and behaviors, I think that was making my subconscious, or whatever the fuck happens in the background, that was making that scared and worrying about things. And because of that worry, that was translated into my dreams, and it made me have awful dreams, like getting trapped in a maze while a monster's chasing me. Or actually, one reoccurring dream I had all the time was somebody is in dire need of help, and my limbs are too heavy for me to get off the ground, and when I would try to yell, I didn't have a voice, so I couldn't help somebody who was in trouble. That was a constant dream, all the time. But some more recent dreams that I've had, however, damn it, fucking Jake's blowing up my phone and shit. I'm just trying to record some shit, guy. Some more recent dreams I've had, which have become more symbolic and have more impact on my life, are actually Jake, the guy who's texting me, ironically enough. I had a dream where he killed himself, actually. And I was only like 13, 14 years old when this happened, so quite a while ago. He killed himself, and it was right after our friend group, because he's been in the friend group with me for like 10 years. It was right after we had a big falling out with him and kind of like excommunicated him because we were dumb kids and didn't really know how to handle things in a mature fashion. We excommunicated him, and he was left on his own for like months without any friends. And I specifically didn't want to forgive him at all. I had a lot of resentment and a lot of issues towards him. And because of these resentments and issues, I was like, good, he's gone. I don't want to see him ever again. I don't care what happens to him. I don't care what the ultimate conclusion to his story in life is, honestly. Because some people in the group were afraid that maybe he'd kill himself. And me, in my 12, 13-year-old arrogance, was like, good, he deserves it. And then I had this dream where he commits suicide, and a lot of it's technically my fault because I was one of the main people pushing for keeping him shut off from our friend group when he really didn't do anything so bad that was necessary. And the dream totally changed my perspective on the situation, and I forgave him. And now he's one of my best friends. He went from a childhood bully of mine to one of my best friends and best acquaintances on a regular basis. Like, so listening to my dream and listening to the message my subconscious had for me really changed something in my life and turned something around and possibly prevented disaster as far as I'm concerned. And that's awesome. I don't know if many other people's dreams or subconsciouses talk to them in the way that mine do. From the people I've talked to, they don't. But it's still very interesting and very, very interesting to talk about and think about. Another one I had recently, actually super recently, and it scared the shit out of me. Like, for premise, for those listening, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm like 6'5", 210 pounds. Like, that's weird to think about because I used to weigh 350, but 210 pounds, and I mean, there's not many people who are like physically imposing to me on a daily basis, except my father. He still dwarfs me to this day. Not only does he weigh significantly more than me, he's got like 2 to 3 inches on me. And I have a great relationship with my dad, so like this dream came out of nowhere and made no sense. I think it might have been my subconscious telling me to not be arrogant and respect him or something, but I had a dream where I couldn't move and my dad just beat the shit out of me. and I couldn't do shit about it. I couldn't even talk or anything. And this man just wailed on me. And I mean, that was the dream. Then I woke up, and that was about it. I don't totally know the reason behind it. It wasn't like an episodic movie, like most of my dreams end up being, and it was just really out there and weird. But I'm glad I had the dream. Since then, I've kind of tiptoed around my dad a little bit because I got the shit scared out of me in a dream. Because like we discussed earlier, when you dream things, you process them like they actually happened. So when your girlfriend gets upset with you for leaving her in a dream, I mean, to her it actually happened. Now, she's got to be mature enough to separate the two, real life from the dream. But still, those feelings she felt were real. But yeah, so that was a recent one. Another one, I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2. It's like an old western simulator, basically, and there's like a big multiplayer game option you can play in there called Red Dead Online. Me and my friends were all playing, and then me and Anthony, me and Daring Shark, we got into a scuffle. He shot me and killed me, so I shot him and killed him, and we went back and forth a little bit because you can respawn later on. And like I mean, by the end of the night we were fine, right? And everything was fine. It was just joking around and having a good time. But that night I had a dream where Anthony in real life, because I do know him in real life, took a baseball bat to my car and like fucked my shit up. And just like maliciously, like he was really angry with me, like he was trying to get back at me for something. And immediately the next morning, because I don't fuck around when my dreams tell me things anymore, I'm like, bro, are we good? Like, I thought we were kidding around last night. I didn't know shooting you in a video game would upset you so bad. And he let me know we were fine and there was no problems or anything. But like, that my subconscious decided to tell me that I might have pissed Anthony off after that encounter. So that was interesting. Oh, here's one, because I do keep a dream journal, so I'm just flipping through it right now, looking at some of the weird shit I come into. One of them is actually photographer, my girlfriend, dying of the plague. like I don't know if it was like the Black Death from the medieval ages or something, but like her and other family members were all getting afflicted by this plague that didn't affect me, and I was just powerless and had nothing I could do about it. And it was nuts. And my friends are up my ass on text messaging right now. I apparently need to send everybody a message when I start recording. The one time a week I record, Jesus. regardless, and everybody was dying of this awful plague that like turned your skin dark and made your fucking eyes roll back into the back of your head and shit. And I just had to watch. And I think that dream ended with me being the last person on Earth because there was nobody left. That was fucked. Um, Obviously, I've had a dream. I think anybody who has nightmares often had a dream where my dog got hit by a car. He's a German Shepherd named Atlas. That was fucking immediately. I woke up, went and loved on him, and played fetch with him and stuff, and just let the dog know I appreciated him. Not that he's gonna remember 24 hours from now, but yeah. So I did that, and I'm thinking maybe my subconscious was telling me maybe I was neglecting the dog a little bit. I don't think I was, but whatever. I went and took care of him because of it. Here's one that really got to me symbolically a little bit. So for those who listen to the podcast often, they know that, especially if you listen to episode 2, Family, I got into quite a few disagreements and arguments and stuff with my family, my parents, when I was younger, like way younger, about whether or not I should have to play football or pursue college football and things like that, because my heart really wasn't in it. It never really was. I mean, I think by my senior year of high school, I was finally starting to have fun with my friends while I was doing it, but I still wasn't really enjoying playing the sport on a regular basis, and I still wasn't getting a lot of enjoyment out of the sport itself. Um, I argued with them a lot, and now I see in my two little sisters, who are significantly younger than me, I see my parents pushing sports onto them in the same way. Now, granted, my sister's response, both of them, are far more positive than mine ever was. They're far better at sports than I ever was at their age, and it's overall been a positive impact on them. But I tell you what, man, these bougie ass parents and the way they treat little kids soccer, it is it's ridiculous. It promotes a level of unhealthy competition between kids, I would say, because it just makes them like terrible and nasty to one another. And it also perpetuates the system in which, like, it destroys sportsmanship. This is what a lot of people don't understand. I think when they hear me talk about my issues with super competitive children's sports, they think I'm one of those everybody needs a participation trophy kind of guy. I'm not. I'm really not. I just think we need to put less emphasis on winning and more emphasis on improving your craft at the sport and trying to have fun while you play it, especially for children. And it's not that there shouldn't be an incentive to win, because then you wouldn't even want to win. It's that if you lose, it shouldn't be such a toxic situation for the kid and for the parents and for their relationship that it makes them hate the sport. Like, that defeats the purpose to me. And all it does is breed bad sportsmanship, because the kids are way more worried about their coaches and their kids and possibly their college experience and relationships than they are about the actual game itself. And it just leads to a perpetual, like, kind of violent cycle between the players sometimes, when they're just deathly afraid of what's going to happen after the game if they didn't perform correctly. So they take this super unhealthy, super, like, only the strong survive mentality onto the field with them, because really there is only one winner. It's those who get to go home to their parents and say that they won and get to be in the good graces of their coaches and not be like fucking verbally harassed by either of those parties for losing, right? And I mean, like, people are going to listen to this and they're going to think my parents were like that with me. They really weren't. The issue my parents had is they didn't understand why I was so undervalued on my team as a player. What me and my parents fought about was maybe I wasn't kissing the coach's ass enough. Maybe I wasn't giving enough effort. Maybe I wasn't all these different things. And I've deduced my problems with coaches over the years to social anxiety and just being afraid of them, honestly. But that's mainly where the dysfunction with me and my parents came from, which we're way past, especially since I quit college football, and we get along fine, and there's no issues at all. I mean, I'm still fucking living with them right now, and it's not like they are upset with me or anything, so not really worried about that. But I see the same thing happening to my sisters, where they're experiencing some of the more toxic aspects of competitive sports, mainly dealing with the other players and dealing with their coaches. My parents have chilled way the fuck out from when I was a kid, and I had a dream where she's got a funny gamer tag. My the middle child of my family, her gamer tag is Ladank. All right, and Ladank is on and off with sports all the time. She goes from loving them, especially when she's successful at them because she gets lots of praise from my parents and thinking she is just the most amazing thing in the world in Miss Perfect, to absolutely hating them if she like gets unlucky with a bad team and doesn't win often and possibly gets her shit kicked in one game by like a bigger girl or something. She goes straight to like, I want to quit, right? And during one of these spouts of her wanting to quit really bad, and my parents basically saying, no, you don't get to rage quit because you weren't successful, which I agree with, mind you, she got almost like actually depressed. She's very young to be feeling that way, like at all, which stressed me out a little bit because of the psychology background, right? And I had a dream where she went numb and stopped feeling the depression, something I've seen before, something I've experienced before and seen in a lot of people in high school. And in the dream, she has like a psychotic meltdown and actually proceeds to intentionally light our house on fire. Like straight up grabs a can of gasoline and starts drenching it all over the walk-in foyer of our house and lights the shit on fire. And in my dream, she just did not give a shit about what she was doing or that she could possibly kill everybody. And every time I would try to put the fire out or throw water on it, it was like I was throwing more gasoline on it and it would make a bigger flame. And this left like a pretty massive impact with me because that was it was so fucked up. Like I couldn't, it was so weird. And the whole point, because I knew it from the beginning in the dream, let alone when I woke up, the whole thing I knew was it was my subconscious and me being afraid of her having like a psychological breakdown or something. And it's not that I really thought she's going to light the house on fire or something, but possibly do damage to herself or something. And I don't think it ever got to that point. But after this dream, I went and checked on her and spent a lot of personal time with her, played video games with her and shit. Took her to get ice cream, and now I know for sure she's okay. I mean, this is like almost a year ago that this happened, so it's been a bit. But regardless, it's that dream really showed me some symbolic and interesting conclusions that I had thought about but not really brought to the front of my mind until I had the dream. And that's a big deal. I've had so many dreams where I lose the ability to use my legs or use parts of my body or die of like health problems, and I think those really contributed to me losing weight over the years. And well, I mean, all I can say is it was successful. I went from 350 pounds to 210, and I'm pretty damn happy with my weight the way it is now. And if it wasn't for those dreams all the time and thinking it was killing me, then yeah, probably could have been some some repercussions to living the way I was living and eating the way I was eating. So dreams overall, they play a huge role in my life. I don't know about you guys, or anybody who ever ends up listening to this video, but they're fascinating. And after building my own computer and seeing what it can do, like on games like Skyrim through modding and Fallout through modding and all this kind of stuff, the kind of shit a computer can simulate, and then comparing that to what I can do in dreams and seeing as to how the computer is nowhere close, that's fascinating to me. Like, the imagery abilities of our brain and honestly the processing ability, the shit it can render and do while you're sleeping is insane. It's absolutely batshit crazy. And I'm super fascinated to see what our boy Elon Musk does with Neuralink in the future. To premise this, honestly, I personally think the purpose of dreaming is a little bit of everything that I said in the beginning of the video. I talked about memory consolidation, emotion processing, wish fulfillment, and practicing for possibly dangerous confrontations with people or things or events. I think that's dreams hit up all of that, and then you've got mine where dreams like kind of give you warnings, try to show you the things that are right in front of your face that you're not seeing or accepting. That'd probably be it though. That's it. Yeah, that's meditation episode 2. Dreams. Have a good one, everybody.